Recycling reduces resources, it reduces the need for energy, and it reduces greenhouse gas emissions. And so recycling also creates jobs. And so because of all of those things, it's really, in most cases, it's the environmentally beneficial thing to do.
We are celebrating Green Week on KREM 2 Morning News. Each day, we're focusing on a different topic and the ways we can help to protect the environment. Today's topic is recycling.
Well, the world is facing a recycling crisis right now, and it's affecting us here at home as well.
Back in January, China stopped accepting all recycled materials from many states here in the western part of the U.S., and that is putting many of them, including Washington and parts of Idaho, in a big pinch.
Experts with the Department of Ecology say we do not have the infrastructure to handle all of the material that used to get shipped to China. And that means two things. Some facilities will not be able to accept the same materials, so more recyclables will go into our landfills. That also means we will have to start doing a better job of cleaning up the materials we can recycle.
And we, as the public, are the first step in the manufacturing process. And so the quality of the materials that we put in results in the quality of the materials that come out. And that's just the very first step.
Of course, the next step is for those materials to go to the recycling facility. And then that material is sold and sent to other markets where it can be remanufactured into other things. Now, one of our local facilities taking in that recycling is the Spokane Materials and Recycling Technology Center. Around here, we call it the Smart Center.
KREM 2's Kiera Elfallen is live there to give us a peek at what goes on behind the scenes. Good morning, Kiera.
Yes, good morning. Well, according to a study done by Science Advances, China has imported an increasing 45% of the world's plastic waste since 1992. That was up until January. Now that China is no longer importing much of the recyclable materials, especially from most parts of the U.S., a lot of local recycling facilities are hoping that you can help, and that starts with education.
Don't be that person.
Unfortunately, like animal carcasses when it's hunting season come through. We've had hot water heaters. We had a full V8 engine block come across the line.
Because if you are that person, it creates a problem for the nearly 100 people who work at the Smart Center. And sometimes this happens.
The system was shut down because a bike chain and a cable wire came across our line, snagged our equipment, and caused us to shut down.
At the Smart Center, human sorters and machines are tasked with separating the good from the bad.
We sort and process all of the single stream or blended stream recycling from eastern and central Washington.
Don't feel bad if you don't know everything about recycling, but Waste Management is here to help.
Items that are recyclable are paper and cardboard, and bottle and can shaped containers. We want them all to be clean, dry, and empty, no food or liquid contamination. And the third guideline is simply no plastic bags in our recycling system. It wraps around our sorting equipment and shuts us down, if not making sure our equipment can't sort properly.
The center receives thousands of plastic bags on a daily basis, but that's not all that's clogging the machines.
Things like rope, wire, textiles. When in doubt, throw it out. If you're not explicitly clear it should be recycled, it's better off not to contaminate the good recyclables.
As the world tries to figure out what to do now that China will no longer be a massive importer of recyclable materials, local workers just ask that you continue to do your part.
We're in a good area here in the Pacific Northwest and Eastern Washington specifically that there is a lot of concern from our residents. We are very passionate about sustainability and very passionate about recycling. And that leaves me very encouraged that as the system changes or as any guidelines change, we will be ready to adapt and make sure we are always properly recycling.
Most of the materials here from the Smart Center do go to domestic markets, but still the jobs here are not very easy at all. As you could see, when they have to shut down the line, that takes up a lot of time. So what you can do is do your part and recycle right to make their jobs much easier. I'm live here in Spokane. Kiera Elfallen, KREM 2 News.
All right, Kiera, thank you. Well, when we think about what we can recycle, plastic is near the top of the list.
But of course, there is one specific form of that we should never toss into the blue bin. Of course, we're talking about those plastic grocery bags. The Smart Center takes in thousands of plastic bags on a daily basis, and it can put a major snag in the process and damage the machinery. And that is true at recycling centers across the board.
Most recycling facilities say that at least 2 or 3 times a day they have to completely shut down the entire plant, and people with like knives have to go in there and cut out all of the plastic bags. And so it's a worker safety issue and it's an efficiency issue. And so plastic bags are the biggest problem.
And we do want to point out that those plastic grocery bags can be recycled. They just need to be disposed of properly. Many grocery stores place bins right near the entrance, and you just need to make sure they are empty and dry.
And while plastic bags can hurt the machines, other items showing up at recycling facilities are downright dangerous. Officials have seen propane tanks, hypodermic needles, and lithium-ion batteries. Now, some of those have even sparked fires. At the Spokane Smart Center, you may remember 3 employees got sick when a pesticide container burst. That happened back in April. Coming up in our next half hour, there is more Green Week coverage.
We will cover the do's and don'ts of recycling and what it means if you see a yellow tag on your bin.
Right now, it is 5:27 on this Monday.
I'm enjoying it, so we don't have it.
All good over here.
6:44 now. Well, it is Green Week here on KREM 2 Morning News. All week we're sharing stories of how to live sustainably.
This morning we are focusing on recycling.
So here's what you should know when it comes to recycling. Aluminum is the #1. Experts say absolutely recycle all of your aluminum and metal cans. And think bottle, jug, dairy tub. These are all great to recycle too. Facilities want your water bottles and laundry detergent containers, as well as your milk jugs, sour cream, and yogurt tubs. Just make sure everything is empty, clean, and dry.
Now, when it comes to the don'ts, keep this in mind. When in doubt, leave it out. Too much of the wrong kind of materials can mess up the recycling process and contaminate the good items. As we mentioned before, do not put your plastic grocery bags in the recycling bin. And a good rule of thumb here is to keep out anything that is smaller than your fist. That means no caps or lids or small pieces of paper. In fact, shredded paper is a big no-no. Also, and this is one we're told not many people know, do not try to recycle those store-bought plastic containers that either hold your bakery items, maybe muffins or cupcakes, or fresh greens, maybe your salad mixes. Do not recycle those containers. Now, if you live in Coeur d'Alene, you may have seen some yellow tags in your neighborhood lately.
That's right. So in the last few months, CDA Garbage has been tagging recycling bins that have non-recyclable materials inside, and that's a team effort with the city.
Now, this all goes back to the recycling crisis stemming from our country's lost export deals with China. So CDA does not want anything but clean, recyclable materials. The company owner says this is more about education, though, than punishment.
But the company will start to not accept some contaminated bins from the worst offenders. He reminds customers that you can go online to see which materials are okay to recycle and which are not.
Very clearly, just some examples I heard from the owner talking with him. Bowling balls, not okay. Bricks, not okay. Propane tank, not okay. Don't put those things in there. Yeah. All right. Well, a new development is aiming to limit the number of plastic bottles winding up in the trash.
A company in Sweden is designing a water bottle made of paper products. It is undergoing testing at a design lab in Portland. Cardboard and other paper-based materials are designed to be as strong as styrofoam and plastic.
They've been able to have the bottle hold carbonation and the pressure that it takes, and that's quite a bit of engineering to do that. You know, if you think of how thick metal is or glass, and that actually doing that with fiber-based material. But there's challenges because it hasn't been done before.
Engineers overseas are testing out the paper bottle. It would be the world's first 100% biodegradable and recyclable paper bottle for carbonated beverages. As for critics who say the practice means a lot more trees being cut down, well, company leaders say they plant 3 trees for every 1 chopped.
Our Green Week coverage does not stop here. Tomorrow, we will turn our focus to our local waterways and why it is so important to keep them clean.
And coming up on the CW22, we'll talk about another prong of recycling, composting. We will learn how we can do this at home, and we'll get advice from a member of the Spokane County Master Composters and Recycling Program, and we'll tell you how you can get involved.
8:11 now. Welcome back. It is Green Week here on KREM 2 Morning News, and all week we are sharing stories of how to live sustainably.
This morning we are focusing on recycling. Now, one of our local facilities taking in recycling, of course, is the Spokane Materials and Recycling Technology Center. Around here we call it the Smart Center.
KREM 2's Kiera Elfallen is live there to give us a peek at what goes on behind the scenes. Good morning, Kiera.
Yes, good morning. Well, according to a study done by Science Advances, China has been importing an increasing 45% of the entire world's plastic waste since 1992. That was up until January. Now that China is no longer importing much of that recycled waste, especially from many parts of the United States, a lot of local facilities are asking for your help so you can do your part, and that starts with education.
Don't be that person.
Unfortunately, like animal carcasses when it's hunting season come through. We've had hot water heaters. We had a full V8 engine block come across the line.
Because if you are that person, it creates a problem for the nearly 100 people who work at the Smart Center. And sometimes this happens.
The system was shut down because a bike chain and a cable wire came across our line, snagged our equipment, and caused us to shut down.
At the Smart Center, human sorters and machines are tasked with separating the good from the bad.
We sort and process all of the single stream or blended stream recycling from Eastern and Central Washington.
Don't feel bad if you don't know everything about recycling, but Waste Management is here to help.
Items that are recyclable are paper and cardboard and bottle and can shaped containers. We want them all to be clean, dry, and empty, no food or liquid contamination. And the third guideline is simply no plastic bags in our recycling system. It wraps around our sorting equipment and shuts us down, if not making sure our equipment can't sort properly.
The center receives thousands of plastic bags on a daily basis, but that's not all that's clogging the machines.
Things like rope, wire, textiles. When in doubt, throw it out. If you're not explicitly clear it should be recycled, it's better off not to contaminate the good recyclables.
As the world tries to figure out what to do now that China will no longer be a massive importer of recyclable materials, local workers just ask that you continue to do your part.
We're in a good area here in the Pacific Northwest and Eastern Washington specifically that there's a lot of concern from our residents. We are very passionate about sustainability and very passionate about recycling. And that leaves me very encouraged that as the system changes or as any guidelines change, we will be ready to adapt and make sure we are always properly recycling.
Now, most of the materials from the Smart Center here go to domestic markets, but still, as you can see, the job is pretty tough here, not easy. What you can do is do your part and make sure you're recycling the right items, because when they have to shut down the line, that takes time. Clean everything out, it's not a good thing for them. So they're asking that you do your part and just know what you can and cannot recycle. I'm live here from the Smart Center, Kiera Elfallen, KREM 2 News.
All right, Kiera, thank you so much. Important information this morning. Of course, another way we can recycle is by composting. And Mason Neal from Spokane County Environmental Services, you're with the Master Composters and Recycling Program, right?
Yes, I am. So it's a free class offered by Spokane County where you can learn how to compost, all the ins and outs of it. And then at the end, you get a free compost bin, and then you can go out and teach people how to compost.
Now, for people who don't even really understand what this is all about, can you describe it?
So food waste that ends up in our waste in the landfill creates a lot of methane because it can't decompose properly. So we don't want food waste or organic material to go into landfills. So for that reason, it's really good to compost. But for some people, they think it's really hard to do because they live in an apartment, they don't have a backyard. Well, I live in an apartment and I figured out how to do it myself without that land.
And it's good if you're just getting started too. If you're like, no, this sounds like a big commitment, this doesn't look too bad.
Oh, it's really simple. And I even made this for free. So lots of bakeries, they get their frosting in buckets. So I went to a local grocery store and I asked for buckets. And then I pulled out a drill and I put some holes in it. And I made my own 3-level worm bucket.
Yes, there's the
surprise.
worm bucket. We have worms in here.
We have worms. So this is where I put my food. They will eat almost anything that's a vegetable or fruit waste. They don't like high acidity food like citrus or onions. But for the most part, I put almost everything food waste that I produce in here. I just have to put a little bedding in there, keep it mixed, aerated, don't let it get too wet or too dry, and they eat my food. And then before long, I have this like brown dirt material that I can just put back into the ground. I don't have a garden of my own, but I can find a community garden or ask a friend or just sneak somewhere and bury it in the ground.
Because that's really good growing material
Yes.
after that, right?
It's excellent nutrition, and our soils already get depleted often, and so this is a great way to just return that nutrition back into the ground.
Now here's a question. If maybe you don't want to go the route where you deal with the worms and you have to do all of this, there's another option where you just would have a bin, right?
Yes, you can just have a bin. That you'd really want to do outdoors because it's going to be a lot slower. So basically the worms speed up the process for me and make it happen much faster. There are other methods, like this bucket is called the bokashi bucket. I like to call it the kombucha of composting. You put your own bacteria in there, it's sealed, so it's anaerobic, meaning there's no oxygen in there, and it breaks down a lot faster. But with that, you have to bury the whatever you get out of it. Whereas this, you can put on the surface of the ground. This has to be buried underground.
No, why
Our
is
director
that?
wanted to look
It's
inside
just
here,
because
see what it looks like.
it can be a little bit more foul, which is why it's sealed. It can smell. And you can put dairy and meat and something like that. You cannot put dairy or meat in a worm bucket because that will have the bacteria that will create a smell. Other options, if you live in Spokane, your Clean Green bucket can take all your compost, of course, as well as paper products. So there are a bunch of options, and I think almost anyone should be able to do this.
You're making it sound so much easier than I thought.
Oh, it's a blast. And for me, I had a dog, and I don't have them anymore, so these are like my family, my little pets.
So your pets?
Yeah.
Do you have names for them then?
I don't have names for them. They live in my closet. They don't create a smell at all. I just open the door every morning, give them a stir, say hi, make sure everything's going well. And yeah, we're in a great relationship. They help me, and I help them.
I love it. Oh, Mason, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
And we want to let people know where they can sign up if they want
Yes.
to take this class, right?
So you can just Google Spokane County Master Recyclers or go on the Spokane County website, and there you can sign up. It's every spring. The class is free. They just ask that you return some volunteer hours.
Oh, very easy.
Yes.
Mason, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
you.
If you didn't catch that, we'll get that on KREM.com for you this morning. Coming up on 8:19, you're watching KREM 2 Morning News on the CW22.